Hey, it's Kish,
And it's Roland here.
and we are back with the final round of the Geelong League Challenge. So, on the left, we have Tripp playing his Pidgeot Jolteon deck versus Henry on the right playing his Regice Raticate deck. So, we featured both these players in previous rounds, and credit to them, they've made it all the way to the final round. Henry's on 4-0 and Tripp is on 3-0-1, so both in a potential position to win the League Challenge. So, this should be an exciting game, Roland. Any comments on the matchup?
Yeah, well, there's going to be a lot of walling. As we saw in both of the games that they played, that was a big feature of both of their decks. You know, Henry, obviously, big component of that is Regice and the walling that provides, and Glaceon, although we won't see Glaceon in this particular matchup. Yeah, there's just going to be a lot of that. Particularly, but the difference between the two decks is that Henry's plays, energy disruption cards, Crushing Hammer, Enhanced Hammer, and crucially he plays that Raticate.
Yep.
So that'll get around the Jolteon that Tripp plays. So you think that maybe, in terms of all the pieces that they have, Henry might have a few more relevant pieces, to win. So you might think that he would have the advantage in this matchup, but it is very unconventional.
Yep.
It's tough to tell.
Yeah, it's very it's cool to see two unique decks make it all the way through. Might have been expecting to see some Yveltal Garb or some Mega Mewtwo or something.
We're sorry
like
to disappoint you. We can't deliver on that, but we can deliver on some very unique decks and very good records from both of these players. They would be very, very much at the top.
Yep. And so we see Henry starting off with a Trubbish up against Tripp's Jolteon, and Tripp also has a Trubbish on the bench.
First. Yeah, does sort of the
okay,
and has nothing.
So he just plays a Parallel City and just passes. So this might be a very short game one if Henry doesn't get anything on his next turn. So Tripp playing the Trainer's Mail. What's he looking for? Not quite sure what's in his hand. So, but yeah, from Henry's point of view, I'm assuming he doesn't really have much. If he just played a Parallel City and passed, didn't play any supporters.
Yeah, it really hasn't. And it's not one of those situations where sometimes people don't play something, but you're not necessarily sure whether they have something or they don't. In this case, if he had anything, you would obviously play. Yep. You've just got a Trubbish and nothing else. Yeah, so really all Tripp needs at some point is a double Colossus, and he can knock out that Trubbish.
Yep.
Henry's going to need something, otherwise that's going to go south pretty quickly.
So
discards the other Trubbish. It's interesting, they're both getting out Trubbish. There's sort of like no reason not to play it, even though there's very few abilities on both sides.
Yep.
Perhaps on Tripp's side, he wants to prevent Henry's Rattars from being able to discard the tools. That's probably going to be the most relevant ability in this game, aside from Shaman. Okay, so we see that Henry does
Sycamore in Henry's hand. So
he probably... That's interesting. He
had a Garbodor.
He had an Ultra Ball in his hand also. It's interesting. On the previous turn, he could have... Ultra Ball either for Shaman. If he top decked the... We're not exactly sure what he top decked.
Yeah.
But he could have done something on the previous turn. It's interesting that he thought that the Garbodor was valuable enough to just hold it in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose he didn't necessarily know what Tripp was playing.
That's right. So it's pretty interesting, yeah. So maybe, as you said, Henry just holding on to the Garbodor, thinking it was too valuable to just discard.
Yeah, there's a lot of matchups where it's really helpful. So, just because you see your opponent has... Jolteon, but I suppose he did say that his opponent had a Trubbish. But, absolutely, it's this is not a particularly quick matchup. It's not going to necessarily matter who gets the first attack off. That's going to correlate very lowly with success in these type of matchups. Like, it's more about the attrition. And then we see, so we see that double Colossus, so Jolteon's going to be able to attack. Last ending up that Regice, wants to knock it out as soon as possible before it can use Resistance Blizzard to make itself invulnerable to attacks from EXs.
Yep.
But, of course, Henry's ace in the hole is just things like Enhanced Hammer and that brooding Raticate that's possibly about to come into play and evolve, and something that can really, it can bypass Jolteon's effect because it's not a basic Pokemon, and it can do a lot of damage. 3 DC in the discard, and that's a one-hit knockout. Even if he's not one-hit KOing it, 2 successive Raticates can do the trick.
Yep. So
and he plays Experience Share. That's not a card that we see. Sorry, not a card that we see a lot of necessarily, but it's good for decks that sort of don't really have energy acceleration. And we do have Max Elixir in the format, but not always something that you can rely on. XP share is very reliable, and
exactly, that's right. It's pretty much a free energy. Whenever one of your Pokemon gets knocked out, you get to conserve the energy on the board, and he said there's no tool removal or anything like that. So pretty good card, and I think good for streaming Regice from Henry's point of view.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the downside is you don't get to play Fighting Fury Belt, but hey, if Regice's effect is working, it doesn't really matter how much HP it is. You know, if it's an EX, they can't damage it regardless.
So Henry...
Yeah. Okay, so that does go down. So Tripp's plan there worked. So he was able to Lysander, and Henry couldn't get it out of the active spot. But yeah, so we do see the Raticate come down with the energy. Yeah, and so it can discard, with its first attack, can discard any energy.
So if an Enhanced Hammer comes down here from Henry, that's going to be pretty big, but he doesn't have it. So just the discard of the double colours. So the door is a little bit open for Tripp here.
Yeah, okay, and he just draws it again. Ideally, you really want to combine that with either a Crushing Hammer or a Flagrant. Flagrant. So to put your opponent down to 0, but 0 energy on their active, but yeah, they're not quite going to do the trick in this case. Even if he'd done that, he could have free retreated to Jolteon and attached DCE and knocked him out with Jolteon. This is a bit better because it makes it invulnerable to being hit by Regice.
So Raticate, of course, only 60 HP, gets easily knocked out by the Jolteon's Flash Ray. So the EXP share coming in clutch for Henry there, able to power up the Regice, and another manual attachment of the DCE from hand means that he will be getting off a Resistance Blizzard this turn. So he's just going to retreat, and here we see the stalemate that is Jolteon versus Regice.
Yeah, coming to a theatre near you. It's not super entertaining, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here. You know, what are the win conditions? Because if this just keeps happening in perpetuity, then you're not going to really get anywhere. But yeah, so and again,
didn't Tripp use Flash Ray last turn?
So
he
did.
Resistance Blizzard shouldn't have done anything. I believe Henry played a Sycamore, so nothing like a range or anything like that.
That's an interesting.
So I think.
Sure
I think they've both realised now.
Both come to that epiphany. And also the Parallel City pointing the -20 damage side to Henry. So he's only going to be doing 50 with Resistance Blizzard. But again, in the stalemate situation, that's not going to be huge.
So as you said in the pre-match, Henry probably a bit more comfortable. He's always got that Raticate waiting to go. If he can just get enough energy into the discard pile, 3 double colors in the discard pile will mean he's one-hitting that Jolteon, which has 10 damage on it already. So Tripp just content to Lysander the Regice and hit it for 70, buying himself some time, and also taking that out before it becomes a threat. So we'll see how Henry can respond.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of if they both bide time, you think Henry's just going to increasingly get the advantage, because he ultimately has the Enhanced Hammers. So does he play Crushing Hammer? I believe. I thought that he did, but perhaps he doesn't.
Perhaps he doesn't.
Yeah, quite possibly. But in order to discard double colors, you don't actually need it.
Yeah. I think he relies on the Enhanced Hammers and the Flagrants.
Yeah.
So probably just Crushing Hammer a little bit too unreliable for Henry.
Yeah, and you've also got the first attack of Raticate, which can discard any energy. So it's it's sort of the same thing. There we go. Speaking of Team Flagrant, discards that.
So there we see the Raticate come down. So be interesting to see if Henry has a Floatstone in hand to retreat that Regice, and whether he'll go for the Resistance Blizzard just to buy himself some more time, or whether he'll just go for the Crunch with Raticate. So he does have the Floatstone. He's going to Versus Seeker for the Flaregrant, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Is he? No.
Oh, no,
just
Sycamore,
a Sycamore. He only had another Delinquent in hand.
Yeah, it didn't really have anything in hand, so just playing conservative there. If he can draw an Enhanced Hammer, that's that's huge. Yeah.
So he's just going to retreat to the Garbodor.
Yeah, so can't really do anything.
Doesn't want to risk that Raticate getting knocked out, so he will just retreat to the Garbodor and pass.
Yeah, interesting that he's retreating to Garbodor instead of retreating to Regice and attacking with Resistance Blizzard. I suppose, but I think the key difference is that here it allows him next turn to retreat for free.
That's right.
So he's just walling with Garbodor, and then he's just going to retreat for free to Raticate, perhaps once he's drawn an Enhanced Hammer, or something
that's
like
right. Or he can play the Flare Grunt. So
or a Flagrant, absolutely, yeah.
Tripp probably going to Lysander. He's eyeing up the Lysander. He's got a Versus Seeker in hand. He's deciding whether or not to play it. I think he probably should discard that Raticate. No sense in really attacking the Regice, I think.
It doesn't seem like that's going to be a huge.
And he does make the play to Lysander at the Raticate and just knock it out. That's the real threat as far from Tripp's side. Regice, of course, can't damage the Jolteon EX. And then we see a second Raticate come down from Henry. So Henry really having all the answers here. He needs that Flare Grunt or Enhanced Hammer. That will really swing the tempo of the match in his favor, I think.
He grabs that Bumblebee. It can be good to get resources back or threaten the deck out on your opponent.
Yes.
Tripp's deck is rather big at the moment. He hasn't drawn like heaps of cards, so obviously it's not going to really be used as a deck out. But there we see that Enhanced Hammer.
Yep.
Yeah, that's big.
And here we go. We're going to see the Crunch. 10 damage and discard any energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon. So Tripp's Jolteon now very vulnerable. I believe there's 2 double colors or 3 in the discard.
As of now, I believe 2. There are 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. So he's hitting. So he'll be hitting for 120.
Right.
The question is, say for instance, if Tripp has like another special charge.
Well, that will ruin Henry's plan completely.
Yeah.
The ultimate counter to Raticate.
That's special charge. The metagame is always evolving. The question is, if he has a double colors, does he attach it to Pidgeot, and does he just knock out? Does he knock out Raticate? So we can see Tripp has 5 prizes left, whereas Henry also has.
Tripp's got 3 prizes. I think
3 prizes left.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
He's knocked out 2 Raticates.
Oh yeah, sorry. You're right. He has 3 prizes left.
Yeah.
Whereas Henry has 5.
I believe he has all 6 prizes left to take.
Oh, sorry, it's a bit hard to tell. Yes, he has 6 prizes left. In this situation, if you think, if Tripp can get like a double Colossus on Pidgeot, you think he had a decent chance of getting that off the Sycamore, given that he special charged 2 back into the deck. If he can just knock out Raticate, then he just needs 2 more prizes. And then that sort of stalemate, in inverted commas situation, isn't really going to sort of come up, because ultimately the Bumblebee and the Garbodor sort of provide potential knockouts.
Yeah. And I'm sure Henry is really disappointed to see that special charge.
Yeah,
he's sort of been building his whole game plan around discarding those double colorless, and then all of a sudden, in one fell swoop, all those double colorless are returned to the deck, and he's virtually back where he started.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, 4 prizes behind. This is going to be tough for him to claw his way out of.
So, we see a trainer's mail there from Henry. A Versus Seeker. So, the stalemate of Regice versus Jolteon in this situation doesn't help Henry at all. He's drawn through a lot of his deck already. So, he's really got to find a win condition from somewhere. And that win condition might be that Lugia EX.
Yeah, it can be a powerful card. It's probably not going to be able to get sort of any 1-hit knockouts, but it could certainly 2-hit KO a Pidgeot.
Or it can take out that Jolteon and with Deep Hurricane.
Yeah, it's probably going to be difficult for him to get like 2 DC on it, because he's already played at least 1, but it's possible.
It's possible, yeah. So we see an N here from Henry, putting Tripp down to 2.
Yeah, that's going to be big. If he can just deal with this Pidgeot, that can be enough to make the comeback. Yeah, the problem is that Regice on the bench is damaged, so 3 attacks from Pidgeot's second attack will knock it out.
Yep. That'll just put Tripp down to 1 prize, and then that Bumblebee is easy pickings at that point. So, of course, Regice getting the 3-hit KO on the Pidgeot. So, it's interesting. Does Tripp have enough left in the tank? His deck's still fairly thick. He shuffled all those energy back into his deck.
It seems like he definitely has the resources. It's just a question of can he draw them within. He's got a lot of time to. That's the thing. Henry's deck isn't going to knock him out very quickly. The only real sort of burst card he has is Raticate, but now that's been totally nullified. So everything's just going to be a 3 KO.
Yeah.
And even if we see Tripp drew that Sycamore, even if he hadn't, he just has so much time to just top deck. And but yeah, he does get the Sycamore. Okay, interesting. We are seeing Henry.
So he's going to go Rototiller, I believe. Maybe put back a Super Rod and DC, maybe. An Enhanced Hammer, okay.
Okay, yeah. So recognizing that, that Enhanced Hammer is really going to be the key here, and wanting to Super Rod back those Raticate.
Yeah.
And Rattata discarding the Fighting Fury Belt could also be helpful.
Yep.
Just as an aside, but I think ultimately the fact that he drew that Sycamore is going to make it exceedingly difficult.
Yeah. Is that Regice? That Regice is on 70 damage, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on 70, yeah.
So just 3 attacks from the Pidgeot and it will get knocked out.
Yeah, exactly. Or even just like knock out on this Bunnelby and then a Lysander.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be tough. I think realistically, Henry's got to have another N.
Yeah.
This turn, he's got to have an N. He's got to draw, some enhanced hammers, Raticates, discard both those double colors, then crunch the last energy, and then hopefully sweep through. But he's going to need to draw a lot. Mm-hmm. And Tripp is not going to need to draw anything.
Okay,
he's basically got to start off with an N right now.
Actually, that Regice is on 110.
Oh, it's on 110. It looked like it was on 70.
I thought it was on 70.
Yeah,
it could have been on 90.
It could have been on 90. Well, that's even worse for Henry.
So it's just one attack now.
Yeah, so he absolutely needs to stop this Pidgeot attacking this turn. Mm-hmm. And the only way he can do that
is with a enhanced hammer Flare Grunt.
Flare Grunt, yeah.
But that means that he can't play the N, and if Tripp just has a Lysander and an energy, he can attack with the Jolteon.
And so we do see that Super Rod. He just needs sort of one Raticate and one Rattata. What does he get as his third card? Gets a Bunnelby.
Very fond of that Bunnelby. I know you are too, Roland.
Yeah, it's a great card. It's good fun.
So he gets a Rattata. Just gonna discard that. I know, of course, Garbodor's in place, so Mischievous Fang doesn't work. So there we see the end from Henry. And he's hoping to draw an Enhanced Hammer here, I think. That's really his only out, isn't it?
Yeah, it is his only out. He can't play Flag right now for obvious reasons. He's going to need to draw an Enhanced Hammer.
So let's see if Henry can hit that Clutch Hammer. He just retreats. Oh, he's. I think he recognizes the fact that the Pidgeot can just hit that one on the bench now. So Henry might be thinking about scooping here. I'm not too sure. Surely if he'd drawn the Enhanced Hammer, he would just slam it down.
Yeah. Well, it almost seems like if he didn't draw the Enhanced Hammer, I guess he would know that he's lost already, and so I feel like he probably has it, which is why he hasn't scooped already.
Some discussion here. I think they're debating on the EXP share.
It can always be tough to figure out exactly who's played what.
I think it's a case where the Raticate got knocked out and the benched Regice had a EXP share on it. So, but I believe EXP share says that you may attach that energy. You do not have to.
Yes, so, I believe that's the rule.
So if Henry missed the opportunity to play the EXP share, then that energy is just gone. It's not a case where the game... Okay, so there's the Enhanced Hammer.
Yeah.
But I think that's just a small point. The Regice has the energy anyway to attack, so I don't think it's too relevant.
Having a fourth energy is not particularly important unless Tripp plays like an Enhanced Hammer.
Henry actually goes for the Paralysis with Ice Beam, I think it is.
Ice Beam, yeah. That's smart, because there's no actual reason to Resistance Blizzard, because if you're going to get hit, it's going to be, like, the bench Regice is going to be the one that's going to get knocked out anyway, so you may as well stop them from attacking.
So that Pidgeot is on 200 HP now, so that's a 4-hit KO with the Resistance Blizzard for Henry. So with the Paralycity in place, so he does go for the Resistance Blizzard this turn. So Tripp just needs a double colors to win, and there you go. Slow rollers the double colors and claims the victory. So Tripp goes one game up there, and I think that special charge really came in huge for Tripp in that game. Henry just seemed to build his game plan around discarding those energies and being able to knock out those Jolteons with a shadowy bite from Raticate, but Tripp just completely nullified that play.
Yeah, and that was sort of said to be the point of difference in Henry's deck. That they're going to stalemate, as we kind of saw there for a bit, where neither Regice or Jolteon could hit each other. But if we say, but Henry's got the Raticate, he's got the Enhanced Hammer, he's got Team Flagrant, he can deal damage to Jolteon. Whereas Tripp's deck can't really deal damage to Regice, but that sort of came back to bite him when ultimately the special charge shuffled in the double colour, so then Raticate couldn't really do much damage. Then Pidgeot just knocked out Raticate, and then basically Tripp was able to get 6 prizes without even knocking out the Resistance Blizzarding Regice. So almost all those cards that Henry played down, almost sort of, not that they were wrong plays, but almost led to his demise.
Yeah.
Almost, if he just attacked with Regice over and over again, that wouldn't have happened. But of course, you can't necessarily rely on that as a strategy because your opponent plays, say, Pokemon Ranger.
Yeah.
You can't just have one Regice out there with nothing else. At least in, say, the first game of a series when you don't know what your opponent plays, it's just such a risk. So playing the more generalist strategy is probably advised in the first game. So nothing wrong with how he played that at all. But it'd be interesting to see now if he gets a sniff of Triff's deck and thinks, well, maybe Tripp doesn't play anything that can knock out my Regice, like literally nothing. Could I just, say I've started with Regice, could I literally just attack with Regice the entire game and just either deck out my opponent or somehow take 6 prizes, like. But we do, so we don't see that strong a strategy. We see an Ultra Ball for Shaman, although it could be a Shaman just get a double colours to then use Resistance Blizzard, but we'll see what his general strategy is.
Yeah, so it's interesting. On both games we featured Tripp. That Pidgeot has been huge for the second attack.
Yeah. I don't think it's used Mirror Move a single time.
No, it hasn't really used Mirror Move once on camera. So it's really putting in work in a way we didn't imagine. So Pidgeot showing how versatile it is. But we see a clean 6 from Henry's Shaman. Very nice, and he's pretty much got an ideal turn here. I don't think there's too much else he's looking for.
No, because again, you're sort of limited in what you can play. Does his deck play Max Elixirs, or does it just play EXP share? I was
Henry's?
Henry's,
I believe it just plays the EXP share.
Okay, that's interesting, So that makes sense, that he was playing the EXP share without the Max Elixirs.
Yeah, I think he's gone for... There's so many components to his deck that he's just gone for the things that will most reliably get him what he needs. Rather than so he's foregone things like Crushing Hammer and Max Elixir and things like that. Things which rely on chance, in play, and gone for more guaranteed cards instead, which he can plan turns around, like EXP Share, Flare Grunt, and things like that. So we see Tripp get an Energy and a Fury Belt on.
Yeah, the interesting thing also to note about, say, that sort of stalemate situation between Regice and Jolteon, one of the things that can actually put it in Tripp's favour is, let's just say Henry went with just a Regice and nothing else. Tripp could actually use Swift 4 times with Jolteon and sort of rotate between them and actually knock out a lone Regice. So Henry's strategy, even though it can use a lot of Regice and it can force Tripp to use Jolteon, it can't necessarily be the basis of his entire strategy. He can't literally just have one Regice that can Resistance Blizzard his way to victory. And so, he's got to rely on this Raticate.
Of course, Jolteon's Swift does 30 damage and goes through all effects.
So the effective Resistance Blizzard, goes straight through.
So Henry gets a Float Stone onto that Regice and probably just wants to DCE this turn. He's got a Raticate and a Rattata down, so that's pretty nice. Whatever DCEs that Tripp has are probably not long for this world.
No, it's a tough world for the DCEs out there.
So Henry grabbing another Shaman. He's really digging for that DC. I don't believe he's played a supporter yet this turn. So we see a Sycamore in his hand, but no double colours. He's got an Enhanced Hammer. He's got another Dilemma here. I think he's just going to end. Seemed like he had a pretty good hand and he didn't want to Sycamore all those resources away.
Yeah, and Enhanced Hammers are so crucial.
Yeah, so he just Versus Seekers for the end, plays it, and then he'll really be looking for that double colours here, because Tripp can sort of... He can put 80 damage onto that Regice, which, as we know before, any damage on the Regice becomes quite significant as the game goes on, because we know Tripp plays Pokemon Ranger as well.
Yes, he does play Pokemon Ranger,
If he's able to just get one hit on that Regice, a simple Ranger will knock it out later in the game, but Henry, bringing the Energy Hate, just goes for the Crunch, and that will protect any of his Pokemon from any damage next turn, because I don't believe Tripp plays Max Elixir either. So he relies on manual attachment, so Henry setting him back one turn with the Crunch is pretty big. So what are you thinking if you're Tripp here? What's your strategy? How are you going to beat Henry? Because you know he's just going to try and discard all your energy, run you out of resources. So from Tripp's point of view, what's he looking to do?
Yeah, ideally you want to get that burst turn where you can then say Elixir, touch a double colours, knock out Eradicate, and not let it discard any energy. Or even if you can't sort of burst immediately, you could just attach a basic energy to one of your bench Pokemon. That's pretty safe. The only way Henry could discard that energy is, say, with a Lysander and a Crunch. Yeah. So you want to limit your exposure to your energy being discarded as much as possible, because that's what's going to give Henry the comparative advantage in this matchup, is being able to do big damage with Raticate.
So Tripp just grabs a Jolteon off the Ultra Ball, and he's Transmail. He sees a Lysander in there. He probably wants to try and buy himself a turn if he can, but it's not.
Yeah, so Pidgeot doesn't have for a retreat. It has one retreat cost. Unfortunately for him, he can't retreat that for free. He could with a Floatstone, but yeah, he would need that.
Yeah,
or an escape rope or something.
Unfortunate, it doesn't have free retreat.
It flies, but it doesn't have free retreat. No. Jolteon doesn't even fly, and it has free retreat.
Yeah,
that's disappointing.
Maybe you should discuss that a bit further in another future video.
Yeah, possibly. Well, that could be the basis of something. Yeah. Yeah. So Sycamores for 7. If he gets, we could see a Max Elixir.
I'm not sure if he plays Max Elixir.
Oh, he doesn't play Max Elixir.
No, so
no one plays Max Elixir apparently.
Who needs it?
No one at all plays Max Elixir. It's interesting when we see basics in this format. I guess we think, or at least I've obviously thought that. Yeah, you just assume they play Max Elixir to power up faster, but. It's usually, because the decks are quite a bit slower, and because they only need the 3 energy, they're not like Evil Tile where you want as many energy as you can get.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they choose to just not play it. So, okay, so I guess that does limit what he can do, and that's good for Henry, because it means that, if you get him down, if he gets tripped down to no energy, well, you just can't do anything. So Raticate's going to be even more dangerous when nothing can come out out of nowhere. So
we see Tripp actually discard a double colorless. With the Ultra Ball.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So that is quite unfortunate. You've got to think that Henry's got an Enhanced Hammer or something to discard the double colors on.
Yeah, Jolteon. Or even like a Lysander again and Crunch. So any of those cards will do it.
Mm-hmm. So Tripp's going to Shaman and set up for 4, I think. Not sure what he's digging for at this point. He's got a Garbodor in hand, and he decides to play it down.
Yeah, stops Rattata.
Yeah,
tap Rattata's ability.
Definitely. And he just passes. So Henry evolves into the Raticate. Floatstone's the active, and he just Sycamores. Probably digging for that.
There we go. There we go. It's so good.
And now that Raticate hitting for 120 with the 2 energy in the discard pile.
Yeah, can do big damage.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, he doesn't seem like he could attack with Regice at the moment.
No. But I guess being 1 game down, Henry's really gotta make the move here, push to try and get a win. So maybe he's decided Raticate is the way to go, and he'll just pressure with the 120. If Tripp doesn't draw the special charge, then that Raticate can overwhelm him. Just doing 120 every turn.
Yeah, but there is that spectre on the horizon that, if that special charge comes out, Raticate just becomes nullified.
So we see the Parallel City. Henry bumps his Shamans. Pretty nice.
Yeah, and it seems like he just played the Glaceon purely to be able to Parallel City both of the Shamans. Not that, that Glaceon not actually be intrinsically useful, but, just poking up a bench spot so the Shamans can be discarded, because obviously they'd be fodder for Jolteon.
Yep.
Jolteon can one hit knock out them. But no real easy prizes on Henry's board. Sort of in contrast to, I think, the last game where you had those Regices with all those residual damage, and Tripp was able to just get these sort of cheap prizes and never really have to attack into Regice. This game's different. It really doesn't seem like that's available to him as much.
There
we go. Ice Beam again.
Ice Beam's protecting his Raticate. So maybe just waiting for Tripp to play that 3rd double colorless down, or at least the special charge, just to get rid of it before he starts discarding the double colorless again.
Yeah.
So, what do you do if you're Tripp here? You just attach the basic lightning and pass, I guess.
Well, it depends on what he's got in his hand. We're not exactly sure. Okay, so he does have lightning. Yeah, so he's going to elect to do that. He has a float stone for Pidgeot, yeah. So on the following turn, he could just say if he had, say, a double Colorless and then a Lysander, he could Lysander up a Raticate and knock it out. You know, that's probably going to be his first protocol, is knocking out those Raticates. But Henry, you know, just having them relatively safe on the bench.
Henry actually manages to EXP share the Raticate on the bench, which is really nice. So if the Regice ever does go down, at least he'll get to conserve some of the energy.
Yeah, it's effectively like an energy, really. Yeah, it's helpful.
Of course, EXP share only works with basic energy. So if one of your Pokemon gets knocked out, you can move a basic energy from that Pokemon onto the Pokemon on the bench with an EXP share on it. So there we see the third water energy from Henry, and we'll see a Resistance Blizzard come down. No, he's actually gone for the Ice Beam again. So, what do you think about this? Do you think he's baiting the double Colorless from Tripp?
Yeah, possibly. It could be that he really wants... But Tripp wouldn't really play down the double Colorless unless he also had like a Lysander. Yeah, we'll see. It's interesting. Yeah, Tripp actually has a max potion that he could play at any point to really nullify this damage.
So, yeah. Interesting that Henry chose to go for the Ice Beam there over the Resistance Blizzard.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah,
I don't think there's any wrong.
It is interesting, yeah. I mean, I suppose... I think he's just playing the long game, and for Resistance Blizzards... Look, it's a really tough one to evaluate.
So, Henry, of course, knows this deck much better than we do, so exactly. He's obviously going for some kind of play, which we're not seeing. So, let's see. So, Tripp elected not to play the Max Potion onto the Pidgeot.
Yeah, probably. I mean, ideally trying to save it for when it's got the most damage, but then I suppose then you risk just not having it.
Yeah,
when you need it.
And I guess now it's in range from the Shadowy Bite from the... Oh, there we go. Gets the Max Potion off the Trainer's Mail anyway, so you might choose to play that now.
Yeah, but if he wanted to play it this turn, he would have done it already, so I'd suspect that he wouldn't play it. Unless he's had a change of heart in the whole process of ending.
He may have. So, we'll see what he decides to do here. He didn't look like he got a double Colorless. Or a Float Stone to retreat that Pidgeot, so he just attached to the Pidgeot, and he can use Mirror Move here, because as we said, Henry didn't use Resistance Blizzard, so the Regice taking the 30 damage from the Ice Beam, and now the Pidgeot's in range from the Shadowy Bite from Henry, because there's 2 double Colorless in the discard pile for Tripp, I believe.
Yeah, so Henry can go down to 3 prizes if he wants to this turn. Doesn't necessarily mean he will.
Yeah.
He may very well elect to keep attacking with Regice. No, but he does switch into Raticate.
So that's probably why he went for the Ice Beam last turn. He's just trying to stall the Pidgeot up there and put it in range of the Shadowy Bite.
Yeah, and prevent it from retreating.
Yeah. So there we see. So Tripp electing not to play the Max Potion. So the Pidgeot goes down and the Jolteon comes up. Of course, just a double Colorless here, and that Raticate is going down. So we see a Pokemon Ranger on top of Tripp's discard pile. That could become relevant later on. So the Regice has 30 damage on it, so it's just outside of the KO range of a Fighting Fury belted Jolteon.
It's agonizingly close.
Yeah.
What it is in range for is a Fighting Fury belted Pidgeot, but he doesn't have one of those available.
But I guess Tripp can always use Swift on that Regice and put it in range of the... oh no, I guess he can't use Flash Ray. Forget that. The whole point is that he can't be damaged by basic Pokemon, the Regice. So Tripp's probably going to be digging for the DC here, but Henry... I think Henry's reasonably comfortable here if Tripp ever drops down that DC, as Henry just doesn't want to see the special charge come down.
Yeah, that's going to be Tripp's saving grace here. It does Sycamore.
And there we see a double colorless from Tripp. And he attaches it. So that Raticate will be going down. And there we go. So Tripp takes his first prize. And Henry...
Yes, and one thing that Henry can really threaten here is a knockout on that Shaman. If he gets a Lysander, he can really, just put himself in such a good position because then he just needs one more prize. If Tripp has 2 double colors in the discard, which I believe that he does.
He does have 2 double colors in the discard, but I'm just wondering. There's the Enhanced Hammer, so that's the 3rd double colorless.
Yeah, so he'll actually probably elect to crunch this turn.
Yeah, he crunch this turn, and then he'll be able to one-shot those Jolteon EXs. So a huge play from Henry there.
Yeah. Actually, he will be able to if he discards the Fury Bolt. I think otherwise he'd be 10 short.
He can't discard the Fury Belt because of Garbodor.
Yeah, because of Garbodor. Yeah, exactly.
So he will be 10 short.
Yeah, he
right.
would be. But he could Lysander around. Depends on what he has in his hand. He has quite a few cards.
Yeah. So he
does.
Lysander,
Okay, that's interesting.
And he will take the KO.
Yeah, he's going to take the 2
he's
prizes.
got 2 prizes left, and that Shaman on the board, pretty tasty.
Yeah, exactly. Or even knocking out the Garbodor either way.
So Tripp has to deal with this Raticate this turn, and hopefully somehow disrupt Henry with an N or something like that. But again, Henry's always got the Resistance Blizzard in the back just to buy him some time if he needs it. So this is the power of the Raticate, I guess. Just so much disruption, discarding all the double colorless and then coming back a second time to hit you with Shadowy Bite. So not only does it remove your double colorless from the game, but it uses that to fuel its own attack. So it's a 2-pronged attack from the Raticate. So Tripp grabs a Trainer's Mail, or he played the Trainer's Mail, sorry, and Versus Seekers for an N. So yep, so he manages to get the N, which is the first piece of the puzzle. He will need his 4th double colorless.
He will.
A special charge, and then something like a Shaman EX to draw more cards.
Yeah, well, he can't play Shaman because of Garbodor. Yeah,
sorry, Garbodor.
So he's probably he's going to need to draw pretty much everything he needs.
Yeah,
and also because he can't really retreat.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that special charge. Okay,
so,
that is so crucial.
Yeah.
It cannot be overstated how crucial that is. Yeah, so now he just has 1 DC in the discard. So Raticate's only hitting for 60 damage.
Yep.
And that gives him a lot of time because, now... Well, it also gives him DCA back in his deck. But yeah, it gives him a lot of time. He's not really under the same clock that he was before.
No, but of course Henry can just crunch and discard the lightning off the Jolteon.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, but of course Jolteon has free retreat. He could just retreat it to Garbodor, and nothing Henry can knock it out.
That's true. So...
and he's still got 2 cards in his hand, so...
we do see the Swift from the Jolteon,
okay,
so he leaves it
active.
Swift.
Yeah, Swift, yeah.
So,
it's a decent play because, you don't even need a DC. Say he crunches, then you just touch the lightning energy, and then you can get a knockout that way.
So Tripp just having a look to see what Henry's used up here.
Yeah. It's actually, or we might see Henry retreat to Regice and use Resistance Blizzard. I mean, that would probably be the better play. Raticate does have free retreat. Yeah.
It's got 1 retreat.
Oh, it's got 1 retreat.
Believe.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So whether he wants to discard that double colorless or not, it does have an EX.
Okay, yeah. So he does. Yeah, keeps it and crunches. Yeah, doesn't want to retreat and lose the energy, and attack with Regice.
So Tripp can actually Sky Return the knockout on the Raticate now if he wants to.
Yeah, that'd be a good play for him probably.
Because he can see Henry's powering up that Lugia and probably eyeing up the Shaman as the last prize. So Tripp ends again to disrupt him. So yeah, I think a Sky Return onto from Shaman to KO the Raticate and send up the Garbodor would probably be the ideal play from Tripp's point of view. And Henry just probably hoping that he can... so he just attaches to the to the active Jolteon and uses Swift for the knockout. So, what can Henry do here?
Yeah, well, it's probably no surprise that he's gonna.
Shaman.
Yeah, Lysander up the.
And this
Shaman, yeah.
Hit
So
it
he just
once.
needs to do that one more time, and then that's game over.
So, unfortunately, Tripp wasn't able to Sky Return that Shaman last turn. So, we're going to see a Flash Ray, of course, or a Swift maybe even. No, probably a Flash Ray, but it's going to do no damage to the Regice, and a simple Lysander from Henry will win game 2.
But he does have a Lysander on the Lugia.
Onto the Lugia.
Because Lugia does have 2 retreat, so it's not going to be able to get out of the active spot immediately.
Yep.
Unless Henry can pay another energy to retreat.
Yep. Or has
Seems like he's exhausted his floatstone supply.
Yeah. So, we see a Flare Grunt. Henry just discarding the double colors. And he'll just pass there, so that Lugia will go down. If Tripp decides to knock it out, or he might decide to just leave it stranded in the active.
Yeah, he could, to give him a chance, say, to draw double colors to Sky Return Shaman.
Yeah.
That is a possibility.
So, Tripp benching his own Lugia.
Yeah, he'd really love to see that Pokemon Ranger at this point. Say, for instance, if he could Sky Return, knock out the Lugia, put himself down to 2 prizes, then set up for a Pokemon Ranger KO on Regice with, say, Lugia, that would probably just win him the game.
Yep.
But we haven't really seen it. The card's been elusive, unfortunately, for Tripp. Yeah.
So Tripp just has to pass there.
Yeah, elects to pass.
He doesn't want to knock out that Lugia and then risk Henry just having a Lysander on the Shaman, so he just passes, and then Henry passes back to Tripp.
Yeah, and even, I'm talking about Pokemon Ranger, but even with a Lysander now, say if Tripp draws a Lysander and even just another energy, that Lugia can knock out the Regice on the bench.
So Tripp just attaches a Fighting Fury Belt. And let's see what he can do. This is a pretty interesting situation. Very cagey.
Yeah.
Both players almost on the cusp of victory, really. Even though Tripp's behind on prizes.
Yeah, just a few things need to turn either way, and one thing probably needs to turn either way, and that could be the game. Yeah, just a pass from Henry. Knows he doesn't have what he needed to draw.
I see a Sycamore in Tripp's hand.
But yeah, it seems like
they're just passing back and forth here. Let's Ultra Ball.
I do see an Ultra Ball.
Let's see what
Tripp
Tripp
has
has
left in this deck. We do see the Lysander in there.
Yep, he's got a Lysander, Basic Lightning, and Parallel City. Didn't quite catch the other cards, so it'll be interesting to see what he goes for here. He did shuffle a few double colors back into his deck, so you have to think you'll have access to one.
Yeah, especially when it's so small at the moment.
Yeah. So,
well, Henry's deck is also
incredibly
thin. Yeah. He can't have more than just a few cards left.
So Henry plays the Delinquent with the Versus Seeker, and
getting rid of Tripp's entire hand. Always good.
That was pretty big. So there we see the double colorless Versus Seeker.
There we do. Gets the energy and the Lysander. And that's game 2.
That's game 2. So unfortunately,
very well played by Henry.
Great play by both players.
Sorry, that would be game 3. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's game 2 done. So we're on to game 3.
Oh no, so that is game 2. Sorry.
Yeah.
Shaking hands, I thought, Henry won.
Nah.
No. Okay. They're just very sportsmanlike.
Yeah, very sportsmanlike, congratulating each other on a great game.
Yeah.
So we'll go on to game 3, and time probably becoming a factor at this point. 2 pretty drawn out games, I would think.
Yeah, you definitely feel the time in some of these games, but I think sometimes that can be an indication of a strategic match.
Yeah.
Sometimes the longest games are the best ones. So, yeah. Interesting. It did look like Henry sort of had the advantage sort of in the beginning because he thought, well, he's just going to be able to get rid of all Tripp's energy, but it wasn't really that simple in the end. Again, that special charge is coming in, and but he ultimately did manage to clutch it out. But it was ultimately with being able to Lysander, cheap KOs and Jamans. But yeah, very well played.
Absolutely. So both players shuffling up, getting ready for game 3. And Henry, interesting shuffling method.
Yeah. Everyone has their own unique, way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. And any comments on the Great Ball mat? Ron?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's not quite as good
pretty
as the
good.
Ball mat.
I thought it was pretty great.
Yes. Yeah. Crickets. Add those sound effects in later.
Yeah.
Probably not. I think the Ultra Ball is probably a step above. But
controversy.
Eevee, always good. Everyone loves Eevee. No controversy with that.
Mm-hmm. So we see Henry starting with a Lugia. Probably not his ideal starter.
No, and particularly not with that Jolteon threatening.
Mm-hmm.
But everything, this matchup, it's not what it seems immediately. You might think, this card's going to be good against this card, but there's just so many weird interactions.
That's right.
Hidden cards like Ranger that can just make everything difficult and confusing.
It's very easy to think. I mean, I certainly thought going into this that this would be just a stalemate war between Regice and Jolteon, but that really hasn't panned out.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's because of the presence of these cards like Ranger, which we'll see. It's good for Tripp that he's got it in the discard. Yeah, so if he draws versus Seeker at any point, he has it active to him. So the energy discard on Henry's side and that Raticate, so it does disrupt that kind of stalemate. And then on Tripp's side, he has the Pokemon Ranger as well. So that's probably why. Again, if it were 2 decks that literally all they had was just Jolteon versus Regice, then that's more or less what you'd see. But it's obviously these players play a lot more in their decks than that.
So Henry Ultra Bowling probably going to search out either a Regice or a Rattata. Or even a Shaman, maybe, just to draw some more cards. So he does indeed get the Regice. So that special charge is such a huge swinging factor in this game. If Tripp doesn't have access to it at the right time, if he has to Sycamore it away early or something like that, that'll really open the door for Henry.
Yeah, trainer cards can be pretty fickle. If you just have to discard them, there's no way of getting them back. But it is a very good card.
So Henry plays the Trainer's Mail as a stadium. Of course, you can't do that.
Not quite. Not yet. We've had some funky rules recently, but that's not one of them.
So he does drop the Parallel City instead. So we see the quick Lysander by Tripp onto the Regice, and he will get the first hit on it, which is really nice from his point of view.
Yeah, and particularly it's good for him that he doesn't see any Rattatas out. That sort of crunch that isn't really looming at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Tripp already has a Pokemon Ranger in the discard pile.
Yes, absolutely.
So a simple VS Seeker will allow him to play that Ranger and knock out that Regice, providing his energy stays in play, which is not a given, with all the disruption cards that Henry has. So it's very hard to predict how this is going to turn out. So we'll see Henry debating. Oh, he has to discard 2 water energy, which is quite painful. He'd ideally like to keep those around, especially when he's running things like EXP share. He gets a Rattata down. But he's got the Super Rod.
Super Rod back. Rectify that immediately.
Yep. So essentially a free Ultra Ball. Oh well, I guess at the price of a Super Rod. So we'll see if he has the Enhanced Hammer this turn and a double colorless to use a Resistance Blizzard. He does have the Resistance Blizzard. Sycamore's away another double colorless. And does he have that Enhanced Hammer?
It would be very good for him because it would mean that even if Tripp has like a Pokemon Ranger, he'd also need the double colorless.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't. Yeah, it probably doesn't look like he has it.
Yeah, I think he would have played it by now if he had it. So
just gonna Resistance Blizzard, I think.
Yeah, he would have used Resistance Blizzard, and now Tripp can Shaman set up for 3 cards.
Yeah, interesting we see, the Shamans on the bench. I mean, they are liabilities, but Henry's deck can really only make light work of them if he's got the Raticate out with the 2 DC in the discard. I until then, those Shaman are actually relatively safe.
Yeah.
Whereas the reverse isn't true. So if Henry plays down Shaman, they're fodder for Jolteon. Because Jolteon happens to be lightning. Yeah. So yeah, that Parallel City is definitely in the position that Henry wants at the moment.
Yep. So Tripp playing an N there. Yeah, Ultra Balls. Maybe to get Garbodor. Can't really see anything else you might be looking for.
Yeah, it could just be, you thin out your deck. May as well get it. Well, and again, prevent Raticale's pesky ability.
Very pesky. Annoying.
It is a rat after all.
Yeah. So, yep. Tripp just drops the Garbodor and he will Flash Ray for nothing. Well, no damage at least.
Yeah, well, no damage, but the effect is there. And Henry,
and Henry delinquents.
Yes, okay, delinquent.
So he plays Tripp's hand down to 0 again.
Yeah, that is so brutal.
So very brutal, and the effect
tries to seek some damage, but unfortunately,
Tripp top decks a Trainer's Mail.
Out of the cards.
Probably has a VS Seeker in there, I think. Yep,
yeah, it does.
It is.
Question is, will he use Pokemon Ranger? You've got to think that he will, but possibly not. Actually, no. It's not that simple because if he does, that Raticate will come out, and he won't really have anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, even I suppose he could just Sycamore this turn and just play the long game. Even though he can't do anything, that's fine.
The door was ajar for Henry there, but Tripp slams it shut with that Trainer's Mail into VS Seeker.
Yeah, you spend all that time delinquiting, and then they just top deck it. Always demoralizing.
Yeah. So Henry's got 2 Raticates in play now. He Flare Grunts, and does he have the Float Stone to retreat and use Crunch? No, he doesn't. So just content with the Flare Grunt and Resistance Blizzard. So Resistance Blizzard, of course, doing no damage but protecting the Regice. So Tripp just attached a Fury Belt, making that Jolteon harder to knock out now.
Yeah, and we could see 2 Swifts knock out this Regice. It's only got 50 HP left. We could see that.
Yep.
One thing that Tripp would really like to get is to play that Parallel City in the opposite direction. So than what it was before. So he could play it so he can put his bench to 3 and discard 1 or maybe even 2 of his Shamans.
Yep.
And reduce damage from Regice by 20. That would always be, an advantageous play for him. But we'll see if he has that. He did discard 1 earlier.
Yeah. So he just has to Sycamore. Looks like he's discarded a VS Seeker, a Full Art Pidgeot. Very hard to see. These cards are too shiny. A Faded Town and something else.
Yeah, it's a fun game to play. Yeah. Try and figure out the cards from about 10% of the right side. Yeah.
So he does get another double colorless, which Henry's not going to be too unhappy to see come down. Of course, any Enhanced Hammer or Versus Seeker for a Flare Grunt, and that double colorless is gone.
Okay, so he's content using Flash Ray.
Interesting. Of course, as we said before, time always a factor. Tripp might be more content to stall it out a little bit with the Flash Ray until he can draw into what he needs, or at least until.
And then we have confirmation. If we sort of hadn't figured it out already, that Henry does play that 3/3 line of Raticate.
Yep.
So it really is a big focus for the deck.
Yeah. So he'll be looking for the Enhanced Hammer, I would think. He Ultra Balls, maybe get another Regice. Yep. So this is a bit of a slow grind at this point. Henry's just waiting for those double colors to come into play so he can just discard them. But Tripp always has that special charge waiting in the wings. So Henry just Resistance Blizzards again. And Tripp, he will decide to play the Ranger this turn. So he's going to knock out that Regice. Yep, there we see the EXP share activates. And so, now, what do you think about this?
Yeah, well, it gives him one prize. I mean, it just goes to show how arduous this game is going to be.
Yeah.
You play a supporter card just so you can get one prize.
Yeah.
And you've got 5 more to go, and that's the same for both of them.
Yeah.
Although actually, Henry has 6 left, so even more arduous. We've taken one of a total 12 prizes.
But Henry can of course discard all the energy off
Yeah,
this Jolteon
obviously Henry
now.
has a bit of an easier time in that department.
So Versus
Yeah, so we
Seekers
see-
probably for a Flare Grunt.
Probably we'll see.
Yep,
the
Flare
Flare
Grunt.
Grunt, yep, which we
discards
do,
an energy
combined
and
with
then
Crunch, yep.
crunches. So all energy goes off the Jolteon, and they're both discussing things. Not sure what they're discussing at this point. It's a tie. Alright,
Okay,
so-
they're discussing the fact that it was a tie.
Yeah, maybe time has been called and they both agreed that they can't take all their prizes, so
Yeah,
it's a
I think
tie.
that's a reasonable agreement.
Yep.
Taking 5 prizes in 2 turns is not exactly
Not
possible
realistic.
in this matchup. Yeah.
Yep. So, well played to both players. Congratulations to Henry. He ended up winning this tournament,
Yeah,
going
really good job.
4-0-1, going undefeated with his very unique Raticate Regice deck, and congratulations to Tripp as well. I believe he came 4th, so locked up some championship points to get a season off to a great start. So thanks for watching, everyone. Subscribe to Porygon Tube, leave your feedback in the comments. We will be back with more videos from the Box Hill League Challenge in a little while. Thanks for watching, guys.